Today I'll be talking about a game unlike any I've ever covered here on my channel. A game that is simultaneously puzzle platforming, racing, and combat oriented. A game with many included abilities under a very silly surface coat of paint. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about Space Station Silicon Valley. Make sure if you enjoy content surrounding video games from the late 90s that you click the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more like this every Friday. Before we get into gameplay, let's set the scene. Coming from Earth, we have two characters embarking on a mission. We've got the human, Dan Danger, and his robot companion Evo heading to a space station overtaken by robotic animals in order to stop their rambunctious behaviors and keep them from ever getting to Earth. They make a right turn past this convenient asteroid with direction signs, and they're well on their way to the space station. Along their way though, Evo gets tired of listening to Dan's music and decides he might just switch the song. This launches a pretty heated debate about which music should be played on their flight to this mission until Evo finally punches Dan in the face, knocking him out. Given he was the one flying the ship, they find themselves plunging towards an early landing on the space station. Crashing through the glass ceiling, there is no hope but trying to eject from the ship, and while that doesn't end up working, they do both make it out of this ordeal alive. And then Evo's eject decides to go off. Propelling him towards the infinite void of space, Evo is most likely to never see Dan again, until he breaks through a new part of the glass ceiling and his primary microchip falls out of his robotic body. This is where we start the game. We're essentially playing as a microchip of Evo hopping from robotic animal to robotic animal in order to complete whichever task Dan gives us from the seat of his broken ship in order to restore our robotic body. And like I said before, this game has a lot of interesting and fun objectives. Sometimes you need to capture a speedy mouse in order to beat a dog in a race, and sometimes you need to use a penguin to kill a rocket dog on skis and then use that rocket dog to kill a polar bear tank and then kill more penguins with the polar bear tank and place them all on buttons in order to open an ending portal. You know, basic puzzling stuff. For real though, this game's interesting mix of normal animals and strange machinery is a very fun theme to involve yourself with. Every time you come across a new animal, you'll get this screen popping up that shows you everything you need to know about a new creature that you've captured, and then you get to run around the stage figuring out what they allow you to do that you couldn't do before. You'll be playing as dogs, sheep, rams, rats, mice, foxes, bears, fish, rabbits, seals, penguins, I mean, the list goes on. There are so many different animals to play as, and my personal favorite levels are the ones that put like 5 different animals around the area, so you just have to figure out what you need, when you need it, and where to be when you've got it. Because the level puzzling is meant to be the main focus of this game, the controls are really quite simple. Every animal has an A button function and a B button function, and walks around with the analog stick of course. Even jumping isn't a solid function in this game, it all depends on what your current animal can do. For example, the fox machine has a tail attack and a forward teleport type of thing. Trying to jump up a small step with a fox is just an impossibility. This is part of what makes the objectives you're trying to complete so interesting. When you're introduced to an animal you've never used before, the game will always have something interesting for you to figure out. At the end of every section of levels, we have a final challenge, and all of these play out pretty differently. For the first world, we finish off with a crazy dog plane level that starts with us flying through a course of rings and ends off with a dogfight, no pun intended, with plenty of enemies that is actually quite hard to get through alive. Thankfully, there is a small runway here that heals us after defeating the first wave of enemies, but even so, this is a pretty difficult fight. In the second world, we have a real 3-lap race with boosts and everything versus a couple of opposing racers, and while I did complete this one on my first attempt, I can see this being pretty difficult for a lot of people that aren't as razor-brained as I am when it comes to gaming. I play a lot of racing games, and it kinda panned out perfectly for me in this moment. For the third world, well, I actually haven't gotten that far yet. See, Space Station Silicon Valley is actually quite a long game. It only has about 20 or 30 levels, but between figuring out what I meant to do in every level and successfully keeping myself alive in some of these combat scenarios I find myself in, it takes quite a while to beat even just a couple stages at a time. I've had this game for a few weeks now, and I've only just begun the third world, but I'm very excited to get into it as it seems to be a jungle theme. The point of today's video is just to show you how wacky and interesting Space Station Silicon Valley is. It's one of the most interesting objective-solving games I've ever played, and I've been looking forward to getting my hands on it for some time. It is 100% the weirdest game I've played on the N64, by a long shot. If you're looking for a relaxing game to beat a level in every now and then with the satisfaction of knowing you figured out everything on your own, play Space Station Silicon Valley. This isn't the type of game you'll be blasting through, and it is very much the type you go into whenever you're looking to make your brain work a little bit to find a solution necessary to move on. A lot of mechanics only show up once or twice, so you'll always be kept on your toes in the best possible way. It's not that hard of a game, but it's by no means an easy ride through either. So give it a shot. If you like videos like this one, explaining weird old games I continue to find on the N64, then I recommend you stay tuned as I'm making content like this all the time. I've got more videos like this I'm looking to make in the future, but if you want more right now, maybe click one of these videos you see on the screen. And if you've got any weird games that you want me to check out on the 64, put it in the comments below. As for the time being, my name is Myloe, and I'm out.